Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to the weekly movie show with the boy Connor.
Hello.
Benny.
Hi there.
Well, it's Oscar week, as it always is in February, and we've got some winners, we've got some losers. We're going to be talking about that, some controversies along the way, no doubt. We've also got some news about Sam Raimi possibly being involved in the Marvel Universe. I think everyone's jumping the gun a bit there. We're going to be talking about that. Plus, also a little bit later in the show, we've got something really cool, a preview for Fantastic Film Fest Australia, which is a really cool festival coming through to Sydney in late February, early March. So just really cool that kind of programming is coming on. So we're going to be talking about a few films that we're really excited to see there. Which is really exciting, isn't it, Benny? You're
exciting.
You're kind of like the indie art house film buff guy of this podcast.
I feel like I have to take that mantle.
Somebody has to, because
you guys just
us morons over here,
Philistines.
Otherwise, this movie podcast falls apart. This is pretty cool. This kind of stuff's coming through.
Yeah, this is a pretty weird and wacky looking festival. Some very off the beaten path movies. I want to be there for every one of them.
Yeah,
Cool.
Awesome. Well, listen, as we always like to do before we jump into the news and whatnot, let's catch up on what everyone has been watching. If there's any highlights of the week, Connor.
I've got two. So I mentioned that, unbeknownst to me, my Stan subscription isn't cancelled. So I took it upon the opportunity to go through and check out if there's anything worthwhile watching on that. And one that caught my eye was when I had seen some trailers for last year, which was Miracle Workers with Buscemi and
Harry
Radcliffe.
Potter.
Harry Potter. So, fuck it. I've still got it. Might as well chuck that on. And I've always really been impressed with what Daniel Radcliffe has done post Harry Potter. I think that he chooses some very interesting projects, particularly when he picks these kind of TV series that aren't really high profile or anything like that. So I was keen to give it a shot. And look, I was pleasantly surprised with this. I'm not going to oversell it and say it's got fantastic writing or anything like that. But I think that this TV show has a lot of heart. It's a little bit quirky in some very fun ways. And I think if you don't take it too seriously, if you just, it's a really wonderful watch.
Looked like a lot of fun. It was basically like the bureaucracy of heaven or something, right? With
yeah,
God
so the premise is that essentially God is frustrated with Earth and he goes, oh, fuck it, let's just blow it up. And the gimmick is that Heaven, Inc. is like a corporation that people work in. And there were some really cool concepts with that they played around with.
I remember that one now. Now you jogged my memory there.
Buscemi as God.
Yep.
So kind of like the most out of left field casting you could probably pick.
I feel like there was a few trailers that we reviewed on that one.
It might have been, yeah.
Seems like it might have been a little more attention grabbing if The Good Place hadn't existed for a bunch of years.
Yeah, and I think, but this is, I feel a lot less. I don't think it takes itself as seriously as A Good Place.
It's A Good Place.
Yeah, I mean,
have you watched much of The Good
comparatively?
Place?
No, I mean, just in terms of like it's a short, like I think they're 30-minute episodes. There's 6 episodes a season. Season 2 is out now. I've watched 2 episodes of that. It's same cast but completely different setting. Different
it's the Dark Ages, isn't
story.
it?
Yeah, it's the Dark Ages.
Oh, nice.
They all play different characters. They all kind of swap around. It's really fun. Good time writing, essentially, or storytelling. So yeah, I recommend checking that out if you don't want to invest too much time or.
Maybe I will have a look with my Stan account that I also, for some reason, still have.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Maybe that Stan's like strategy is just to fly under the radar and be like, don't cancel me because you don't know I'm here.
Just like delete their own like app every now and then just so you forget it's there.
Thought I was gone. The other thing I watched is the complete opposite of kind of lovely little watch, no kind of like fun little writing, and that was Good Time with Robert Pattinson.
Hey, for real?
Nice. Yeah.
I watched that as well.
Oh, did you really? So I think
What are the odds?
Yeah, what are the odds? So after Uncut Gems. I think this just showed up on Netflix. I don't know if this is a new release or they kind of
been there for years.
Popped it up in the rankings because of Uncut Gems. But this is Safdie.
Where was it?
This is 2016.
No. Where did you? What streaming service did you watch this on?
Netflix. It's been on there for years.
Dude, I searched Netflix. It wasn't on there.
It's on there.
Yeah. Yes, it definitely is.
Oh wait, yeah. It was. Sorry, my
Yeah.
bad. Sorry, I'm confusing it with another movie I watched.
You're not
sorry,
thinking Good
sorry.
Times, are you? Because that's a different film.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah, sorry. Yes. I watched
Time.
it on Netflix.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sweet. We're on board. You watched that this week?
I did.
Yeah. So coming off Uncut Gems, I was really interested to see, because I don't think I've watched anything else by, is it Safdie Brothers?
Safdie Brothers, yeah.
I don't think I've watched anything else from them. So upon putting this on, one of the things that became startlingly clear is that they have a style.
For sure.
A very distinct style. And
it's attacking the anxiety center of your brain.
And yeah, right?
But even
and
in the cinematography, and I did a
cinematography,
bit of
the
digging
music,
because they're so focused on the face. You know, it's even more so. Uncut Gems is like way more really close up angles, like you're in the character,
and but also a lot of like
them.
really wide, far off shots. So
Yeah.
like, especially when they're following cars or they're looking
in
at
those interim shots, but when those character interactions are happening, and then I did a bit of reading, and they use a longer lens, so a lens for more far away.
Yeah, because they do a lot
but
of
they
slow
sit
zoom
back.
shots.
Yeah, they sit back, so they for twofold to get that effect of it really like claustrophobic and narrow.
And that's definitely the feeling that you get with these films.
And also to leave the actors have a distance, you know, not have a camera right in their face.
Yeah.
You know, give them 3-5 meters,
Yeah.
you know, to kind of like absorb the scene and kind of involve themselves. So this is really great. I watched this for exactly the same reason.
I think that it's a little less polished than Uncut Gems.
Feels a lot more indie.
It does. One of the things that struck me though was that it's so tonally the same, and it felt very much like the same kind of message that I don't know what their back or their catalog looks like. From my knowledge that these are only the two major films that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a few other films that you can watch of theirs, but those are the two first major ones, really.
Okay. Their first two major ones.
Yeah, go check out their
so they've got
check
like
out their
some short
Wikipedia.
films.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
before- okay, that's
some
fine.
shorter features and whatnot.
I'm really interested for their third major film release because I think that for me will make it or break it. Because if their third film is tonally and kind of story-wise the exact same, I feel like I'll become a little bit disinterested. I like directors that have a feel or a tone to them, but I do want a little bit of variability. And I was trying to think about that because one of my favorite directors, I think, of the last decade is Villeneuve. And there's definitely a tone to his movies, but they're not gimmicky, and they're not like, there's enough variability in his filmography that you kind of go like, all right, like, you know, the tone is a bit understated. It's a bit step back and let you kind of, I guess, feel the movie. Whereas this one is very much in your face. Like, it's hardcore 70s, 80s synth. It's grainy. It's, you know, kind of...
It almost feels like Uncut Gems is like the polished version of Good Time.
Yeah.
Which I think it's awesome. And I believe there's a few other... like, they've had Uncut Gems sitting there for 10 years. So maybe even Good Time was their version of an stripped down Uncut Gems. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly, right? So
I completely I understand what you're saying in terms of there's a lot of similarities in the pieces, in the suspense, in the
music is by the same guy.
You're in one, you sort of a day in the life.
Yep.
You know, you're not seeing this over a period of months. You're seeing like a night. So, you know, I do see those parallels, but for me, they are different enough to stand on their own. But it will be interesting to see.
Where do you find the differences, really?
The difference
Like, what
is
makes
definitely in
one
the
stand out?
characters. I think Good Time has definitely got more of an art house indie feeling to it. It's also a shorter feature.
Good Time?
Good Time.
Yeah.
Good Time's the shorter one. And it's got more of that sort of... It's got more of that first feature kind of feeling to it. Whilst Uncut Gems has more polish to it. You've got Adam Sandler who's bringing a different kind of character to the fold. You know, I think Robert Pattinson was amazing in this, and I think his character was awesome. But I think you could have maybe put in another actor who would have done as good a job with that. With Uncut Gems, I feel like Adam Sandler owns that. So and you can't really swap out.
The movie kind of hinges on his persona
completely
in a large way.
So I do.
You've seen both of these, right, Ben?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
So I've been talking about Good Time on the show for years.
Sorry, I'm so
It's
sorry.
It's all right.
I'm so
that
sorry.
was one of the things I was going to do. And I completely
Were you going to
slipped my
shake
mind.
his hand?
No,
Were you
I was
gonna
gonna ask
apologize
him.
I wasn't going to
that?
say anything until you just asked that.
Because I know that you've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
So I was pretty confident that you had seen it. I wasn't sure whether you had. I
You
had a
talked about
feeling
the
that you,
Safdie brothers.
I had a feeling that
lot.
you had talked about it on the.
Yeah, because
podcast.
what an unbelievably assured debut. Like, I just feel like they're this part of this new school of filmmakers who are bursting out here. Most of them I find are doing horror, but these guys just came out and made this movie that you instantly go like, where have these guys come from? And
Yeah.
what are they going to do with this career? They're amazing. And
that's why I'm
Benny
so
Safdie
interested.
in particular as Robert Pattinson's brother in the film,
Yes.
I thought was amazing.
Was that
Incredible.
Safdie?
Yeah. He was
Oh,
one
no
of the
way.
directors of the film. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I looked him
That's
up
wild.
immediately after the film because I'm like, who is this actor? Because he was really affecting in that small role. And I'm like, oh no, he's the writer, director, editor of the film as well. So yeah, I just think these guys are so cool. And I get what you're talking about, the similarities between these two movies.
Which I don't think is a bad thing.
For me, I think there's definitely enough differences as well. And I just cannot wait to see what they do for the rest of their careers.
Yes. Let me clarify. As at these two films, I don't mind the similarities. I really don't, because I noticed it, but it doesn't detract, I think, which is why I'm hanging out for their third, because I feel like the way that I feel about these films is that Uncut Gems is just a more polished kind of honing of the craft of these filmmakers' version of Good Time, and that, I don't think that really takes away anything from Good Time, because it has its own kind of, like you said, more indie, rough style to it. But if I feel as though the third is just kind of, I'd like to see directors try and expand their wheelhouse, go a little bit out of their comfort zone, try different things, and so that's where I'm gonna. I think that's why I'm so interested in it.
So I watched this again a few weeks ago, and George, I wanted to ask you when you eventually saw it, because you were very enamored with the score in Uncut Gems. How'd you like the Good Time one? Because I fucking
Incredible.
love it. It's so
Incredible.
good.
Honestly, and the cues in it, the way they use sound, amazing.
Same guy.
Just
that
spot
does
on. Like I am so into his sound, and it is very similar across Good Time and Uncut Gems. Has that warbly analog synth with the 70s psychedelic tinges to
There was
it.
the at least one scene that I was, it was a really long shot of a car driving down a highway, and the guy was just going at it on the, like, it sounded like a keytar, like like, oh my god, this guy is just he's
just tripping right now.
He's just having the greatest time
So dope.
scoring this thing.
So we actually do have, I just Wikipedia'd it, we do have future projects of the Safdie brothers. So the Hollywood Reporter announced that they will helm a remake of 48 Hours, which is a buddy cop action comedy from 1982.
Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy.
Exactly. Which is one I haven't actually seen. So they have then gone ahead and said that the film is, while the film is still being made, it could no longer be considered a remake. The script would be intended to be a reshifting into something original. So I think they're using that IP, but they're shifting it into something completely different. So
Love to see a buddy cop thing from them.
let's do it.
Get Adam Sandler and Arpats. I would watch that in a second.
Dude, don't
No.
tease me with that, man.
No.
But yeah,
So I don't even think that they're going to use the original IP, actually, from what it's saying on, at least on Wikipedia, that really reliable source.
Could be. Anyway, listen. Even if they do another suspenseful thing and do exactly like if they literally do, if we're saying these two are very similar, do the same thing again.
Good Time 2.
I'm in. I thought it was a fantastic film.
Nice.
I watched something that you've been watching, Ben, The Outsider. I realized that I hadn't cancelled my Foxtel Now subscription.
It seems to be a common theme.
This is so upsetting. But then I was like,
That would be expensive.
Yeah, well, that's where my
Outsider.
money's going.
great. So I was like, I'm actually kind of glad I kept it.
Nice. So this is the HBO Stephen King adaptation.
Jason Bateman,
Ben Mendelsohn. How many have you watched?
I've watched 2 episodes.
Nice.
And it's obviously got that HBO stamp of approval, super polished. Jason Bateman is a very good director. It's not quite as Stephen King-y as most of his films. They've got more of a fantastical. So there's something about them. They've got that Stephen King edge to it. I don't feel like this does. It's kind of got its own vibe. Exactly. But what's to come? Let's see where it goes. But overall, really enjoying it, and the whole alibi and the premise. It's quite interesting. Did he murder him? How can he be in 2 places at once? It's really well done, and I'm looking forward to it. It sucks that it comes out weekly. I kind of wanted to smash it in one.
It's one of those, isn't it?
One go. But
it's becoming
alas.
more and more apparent that some of these streaming services are doing that specifically because they don't want people going for their key properties and then dumping the service.
Yeah. Just smart.
Look, it is.
To be honest,
I don't have a comeback. I'm just
what I
saying,
really like about the whole weekly thing is that you get to experience each episode a little bit more in depth.
You can sit on it for a while.
When it comes out all at once, you're like, Haunting of Hill House. The whole show was awesome. But when it comes out weekly, you're like, ooh, episode 3 of The Mandalorian was awesome. Episode 4 wasn't so great. La 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 la.
But I feel like that's kind of how a lot of these shows are evolving to kind of be
Keep the
less
conversation
episodic.
going.
Yeah, be less episodic and be more kind of as a whole, which I personally like.
Some do and some don't. I guess.
True, but if you think about Haunting of Hill
say-
House, certainly had its own kind of episodic feel. There's distinct reasons as to why it is each episode, but for me, feels as though it is a piece, a singular piece. Whereas some other TV shows, I don't know why I just thought of it, but like Firefly, for example, is very episodic, and is definitely meant to be consumed
Monster of the Week,
one at a time.
That modern gem of TV, Firefly.
Well, no, because I'm talking about how TV has evolved.
Well, I'd say The Outsider, for example, if we're comparing that to, say, The Mandalorian. Mandalorian feels like you can jump into one episode and pick it up. It's like Monster of the Week. He's on an adventure of that week. There was only one episode where it was a 2-parter out of those first 8 episodes. Whilst The Outsider, it feels like an extended movie. It feels like this could have been potentially put into a screenplay of a 2-hour film.
Definitely does, but I feel like every episode ends with a hook, and it always gets me. I'm like, I cannot wait to see the next one.
100%. I'm not saying, but I feel like if you're comparing those 2 together,
One
it
is
feels like one
you came in
complete.
halfway through Outsider, you'd be confused as fuck.
Yeah.
Reminds me a bit of
you would.
Mindhunters.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you're liking it because I was really liking it for that those first couple episodes. The third one came along and it introduced Cynthia Erivo as a private investigator character. I believe it's the third episode. And I think I really started liking the show even more.
Cool.
So I'll be interested to hear how you go with it.
Great.
And I say this every week, but I hope it sticks the landing.
Yep.
That's always the Stephen King, like, all right.
On to me?
Yeah.
Do it.
Cool. Well, as I mentioned last week, or the week before, I remembered that I still had my Amazon Prime streaming account. So I watched something from last year that I loved the trailer and never got around to watching it, which is Undone, the animated or rotoscoped series starring what's her name from Rosa Salazar from Alita Battle Angel, from the creators of BoJack Horseman. About the trailer premise, I think was
I know exactly.
She
This is the time travel.
gets in a car accident and then is in like the.
That's right. I do remember this.
Oh,
Yeah, we completely slept on this fucking thing.
Yeah, because I remember we reviewed the trailers for this a couple of times. It looks
we all
super
really-
interesting.
Yeah, and so interesting that we're just talking about this whole weekly and episodic thing. I don't know if this came out weekly or not.
I'm putting this on my to watch list.
Good,
All
but
right.
I sat there and I watched 8 episodes in one sitting. I absolutely love this show. I think it's one of my favorite pieces of content produced last year. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Ooh,
Rosa,
would have this made on your top 10 pieces of content last year?
I mean, I was only doing movies, but if I was doing TV as well, absolutely.
Does it look awesome?
It's gorgeous, yeah. Like it's got that real Scanner Darkly kind of look. It's just breathtaking, every frame of it. I couldn't look away, and that's annoying because I usually like to sit there and play Tetris while I'm watching TV. But yeah, Rosa Salazar crafts a character with the writers, of course, that is just one of the most engaging fictional characters I think I've seen in so long, which is so interesting because she's just like a human woman. There's no big sci-fi hook to this initially or anything. Like the first episode, there's no fantastical elements whatsoever, and I was hooked by the end of that episode because it's just that BoJack Horseman amazing human writing that just really speaks to everyone, I think. And then of course it goes off into really crazy kind of science fiction-y territory, and then like Bob Odenkirk shows up as her father. And it's just really mind-bending, awesome stuff that after the first episode, you're like, I'm not sure why this is rotoscoped, despite how beautiful it looks. And then every other episode, you're like, that's why it's rotoscoped.
Oh, I understand now.
Looks amazing, yeah. So
How long is each episode?
It's just like a half-hour show, so like 20 minutes or whatever.
Okay.
Awesome.
You ripped through it pretty fast.
I just sat there, like however long each episode combined is, that's how long
Did
it
you
took me to
watch
watch
it with
it.
your VR goggles?
I did not. That would be a bit
that would
scary,
be-
I think.
I love some of these shows that are coming out that are doing the 30-minute, just 6 episodes, 12 episodes thing
Yeah.
that you can get through.
I
pretty
completely
quickly.
agree.
I'm really a fan of that.
Everyone was complaining about that with The Mandalorian, and I thought that was awesome about it. 35, 40 minutes, bing, bada, boom.
Oh, right, yeah, because they were a bit irregular, weren't they? A bit shorter in a lot of
I'm
cases.
sure
them
the
are longer,
Marvel
some are
shows will be a pretty similar length, right? Have they confirmed?
No.
I don't
think
I
we've
don't
actually
think
gotten any word.
Ooh.
any
from
word on
memory.
runtime.
I want them to be 3 hours each episode.
I want those WandaVision ones to be at least
No,
that.
dude, they're going to be half hour. They're going to be 40-minuters.
What
anyway,
are they spending on them? Something like there's like $3 million an episode or something.
Like,
some
15.
ridiculous thing.
it's like 25 million an episode.
15.
That's not half an hour. No way. Surely not.
Dude, that's what they're spending on Mandalorian. Guys, before we get into the news, don't forget to check out our Birds of Prey review, or it's retitled Harley Quinn, The Birds of Prey, or something.
Has it?
Yeah, it got retitled today after the poor box office weekend. Did you see that?
I did not.
Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. In some markets, I heard it's that. I don't know.
So go check out our review for that. And on to the news.
Alrighty, can I say what else I watched first?
The movie news. Sorry. Did I completely just... I'm just like...
You've had your say. That's enough from you. Thank you very much.
Well, I'd first like to wrap up Undone, which I would
sorry.
heartily recommend is one of my favorite things I've seen in the last year. I don't know if the ending's going to work for everybody. I don't know if there's going to be another season of it. But I reckon the journey is more than worth it. 100% recommend. I also watched...
What's your Amazon Prime password? That's all I'll ask you.
I'll offer that. It's I love George 6969. But you need my email address as well. Shit.
Nice.
I also watched Richard Stanley's first film in 20-something years, Color Out of Space, starring Nicolas Cage, which is a H.P. Lovecraft adaptation from Spectavision, who also made Mandy, another Nick Cage movie that I thought was fucking amazing. And I got to say, I loved the hell out of this movie. I'm already a sucker for Lovecraft stuff, and this movie was just the perfect blend of insanity and incomprehensible horror and
Awesome.
amazing visuals on a really small budget with just a really fun Nicolas Cage performance anchoring the whole thing. I don't know if you could really say Nicolas Cage anchors anything.
Oh, come on. He definitely does.
I think he's more like flying out in the
Yeah.
stratosphere, and they're like trying to hold him down. Yeah, but I'm really hoping I can go see this again tonight, because one viewing is not enough. I love the hell out of
This is
this.
the second viewing tonight.
I would like to go to that. Yeah,
Is there another one?
there is not.
Damn. Sounds cool.
Yeah, so that's me. So let's get on to the news.
I'm so sorry. Just quickly, what would you compare that film to as a
Color Out of Space.
Yeah.
far out. I don't even know right now. It's clearly like a low budget film, not in the sense that the production isn't there. It's got an amazing kind of set of visual effects, special effects. Nick Cage is obviously the lead, which love him or hate him. I don't know. It's really something else, which I think is perfect for a Lovecraft story.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Recommend. Anyway, on to the news. We just, of course, had the other day the 92nd Academy Awards.
And the lowest viewed ever.
The lowest ratings they've gotten
Televisual.
since the ratings started getting collected in the 70s, which is not a great sign for them because they had a bit of a spike last year. So they decided to go hostless again.
Consequence low. Like the Oscars have never felt less relevant.
Which is weird for me because I think this is the best list of nominations I've ever seen from them, just based on the strength of the films last year. Like, I don't think in almost any category there was a wrong answer.
So that has nothing to do with the Oscars. That just has something to do with like the strength of the films that came out last year.
Totally, yeah. But I'm saying that makes it feel completely inconsequential because every category could go to any nominee and be like, yep, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Whereas there was no like, ooh, Green Book could win it this year. I'm like, fuck you, better not fucking win it this
It brings
year.
it into the conversation. I think that's the important thing of the Oscars, and I've always shat on the Oscars, but like today at work, everyone was talking about the Oscars. And I'm like, okay, it's good that Parasite and these films are being brought into the conversation because without that vehicle, say what you will about the Academy. I mean, I've got my qualms. We've talked about it at length on this podcast, but at the same time, it's cool that we get that. I'm getting articles all over my Facebook feed and whatnot. Everyone's talking about it.
I certainly agree with that when something like Parasite wins. I think
But every year it's talked about, the Oscars.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think more often than not, it's films that don't really need another boost. Like, when was the last time that something won the Best Picture that came out of left field that
I'm not
you
even
think
talking
deserved
about
more?
necessarily the individual film. I'm just talking about
film
movies.
in general? Yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying.
Even saying like, why did that film win?
Yeah,
that's good.
Sparks a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the closest there was to an upset this year was with Best Picture, so with the most prestigious award, which is cool, with Parasite winning, which I think had like 3-1 odds or something. 1917 was by far the front runner. So that was really cool, and Bong Joon-ho took away Best Director as well.
Incredible.
Which is cool because we all like that movie a lot.
And it was great to have seen him there live, before seeing the film.
Yeah,
I feel like I connect I connect with this so much more.
I feel like I helped make this movie somehow.
I still have met you that time, Bong.
He asked me that screening, should I change the ending? I'm like, no, mate, leave it how it is.
Fucking hell.
But yeah, was there anything else that struck you about it? Joker, of course, won for Best Actor and Best Score, which I'm sure you were very happy about.
I think that's the big one.
I really appreciated that she got recognized for that because I think Hilda Gustafsson.
Yep.
Gustafsson?
Hilda.
How do you say it? Gustafsson?
No, I have no idea.
That's an incredible last
I'm
name.
not gonna
Hilda Composer.
Anyway, she's fantastic.
composer lady.
And first woman, I think, in 32 years or something to win an original score.
That's insane. Best cinematography, I was very happy to see as well. Roger Deakins got his second Oscar for
In
1917 because he went 14, I think, nominations without winning, despite being by far the best cinematographer in Hollywood, possibly ever. And he finally got his first one for Blade Runner 2049 and now again for 1917.
I still haven't seen that
keep doing
shit.
movies with years in the title, I guess. But yeah, more than deserved. Even more than 2049, I think, because that movie was amazingly put together.
I don't know why, but I'm a bit upset that Scarlett Johansson didn't take anything away. I felt like this was a really good year for her.
Yeah, so she lost in both Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress. Yeah. I mean, amazing she was nominated for both, though.
Amazing as in, like, you don't think that she should have been?
No, I mean, what an amazingly impressive...
Yeah. So it sounded like you're just like, it's a damn shock. And I was like, all right, fuck.
Sorry, I didn't realize Parasite also took Best Original Screenplay. Wow.
So it had 3 Oscars?
4. What was the 4th one? I'm not quite sure right now, but wow, that's incredible.
Best Director, Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, I believe, or
Listen,
and International Film. It won Best International Film.
That's
Feature
the
film.
one.
Yeah.
Listen, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. best sound editing versus best sound mixing. So taking it away for best sound editing is Ford v Ferrari,
What made it for mixing?
1917.
Wow.
I mean, those are the obvious picks for those two categories.
I think the mix was just that much better on 1917. But
the editing-
edits,
Oh,
I want someone
all
to
the
sit
car
me down
sounds.
and explain this shit. I genuinely do.
they won't
like,
be able
we
to.
could definitely find out by reading like the top 3 blogs in Google search.
Probably, but I refuse to do that. I want someone to. I want
love-
someone to explain it to me.
I don't want to ever know. I want to. I like this.
This is so
I
much
love
more fun.
this. I just love this. So, hey, the mystery continues.
Yep.
I think overall, a good, good speeches. Taika Waititi took away best adapted screenplay, and I thought his speech was great. He was very emotional and wore his heart on his sleeve. It was good to see.
Adapted screenplay is always such an interesting category of what they deem as adapted and what isn't. Like, from all accounts, what he based Jojo Rabbit on is nothing like that film. Like, it's not comedic at all, which already sets it apart very
That's why
much
it's
so.
adapted.
Yeah, I mean, he adapted
adapted
it
it,
from
Ben.
the Second
What's
World
called
War.
the copy-paste screenplay.
Yeah, I don't know. I really think a great year for the picks. The only one I would really take issue with, and I know this might hurt you, George, was Toy Story 4 winning Best Animated Feature.
Oh
bullshit.
yeah, that's right.
Because I've
I
only
didn't want to
seen
bring it up, man, but
seen 2 of the nominations: Toy Story 4 and How to Train Your Dragon 3, and I would have picked the other 3 nominations above those for
Yeah,
various
easily.
reasons,
I
even though I
would
haven't seen
easily.
them.
I would have put the Irishman ahead of that, and I definitely think it qualifies.
I'm
Good
just
one.
the only saving grace of that is that I'm glad that The Lion King didn't win
Yes.
or get nominated.
or get nominated. Yeah.
Or Frozen 2.
Irishman, Netflix went away pretty empty-handed.
Yeah, Irishman lost 9 categories.
Marriage Story didn't take anything.
Laura
either.
Dern,
Oh
the
yeah, of course. Sorry.
supporting actress.
Supporting actress,
I'm a
sorry.
bit upset that Marriage Story didn't get more credit. I thought it was a really
They're getting
awesome
nominated
film.
now, though, at least, because like they also got snubbed for Dolomite Is My Name, which I don't think got any nominations.
Have you seen
which was
that
a real, which was a real bummer. Yeah, really cool.
yeah
really fun movie.
It's been on my to watch list on Netflix for a while. I'm keen to check that one out.
Wait, oh no, Best Supporting Actress: Scarlett Johansson, Jojo Rabbit. Okay.
No.
Right, gotcha.
It was
No,
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern for its Marriage Story. Sorry, I was just looking at the
Yeah.
category.
All right, should we move on? Anything else that you guys want to talk about with the Oscars?
Nope.
No, I'm glad it's over. I every year I'm like, oh, the Oscars are so fucking lame, and the nominations come out. I'm like, oh, well, I actually care about it a
Let's
little
talk
bit.
about it.
But then by the time the show actually rolls around, I usually don't give a shit.
Well,
But
there's always so many other award shows, and I kind of get sick and tired of hearing about who's won what. And like, yeah, I get it. It's nice to recognize these people, but like, there's about 40 different awards before we get to the Oscars, and they're all kind of like.
Felt a little less painless this year. I feel it's kind of
Definitely.
gone, kind of in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
I think it's, for me at least, it's because it just feels less relevant.
than ever.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Some ways.
Maybe time to go away, Oscars. Next up, this news came out of the blue pretty much straight after we recorded last week, I feel. Sam Raimi, of all people, is in talks to direct Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
No, he's directing it, dude.
He's locked in?
Dude, no, he is directing.
Oh, right. Yes.
that
Okay, yeah, so
shit.
yeah, okay. You didn't pick up on that?
So still in talks, as far as
No,
we
no,
know.
everyone was reporting.
His name
this
is
is
being thrown
fucking
around.
happening.
When this stuff gets reported, it is usually pretty locked in. Apparently, he has already kind of brought someone on to rewrite the script.
Okay.
So I think he's pretty on board. But and that person is actually the writer for Loki, which is just another example of the MCU really tying their movies into these series. But yeah, Sam Raimi is really surprising. He hasn't directed a movie in about 8 years. Oz the Great and the Powerful, starring James Franco, if you guys remember,
2011's
and Zach
classic.
Braff. That movie was terrible.
I never saw that.
Don't.
I just
It's
I
so
love
bad.
you, Sam.
Yeah, I know. I love
didn't
Sam
want to do
Raimi,
it.
but yeah. And before that was like what?
Spider-Man.
No,
There's a no,
the horror. What you?
Yeah.
The
one with the old lady where
Drag
she puts
Me
the
to
curse-
Hell.
Drag Me to Hell. Yeah.
One of my
Which is great.
favorite horror
Yeah.
films.
Yeah,
That was
one of your favorite.
Yeah, I love that film.
yeah, it's awesome.
I wanted to go back to horror, and we've said a couple times on the pod, what is Sam Raimi's next move? And I don't think anyone thought this caliber of director who has already been involved in the Marvel universe
Infamously.
to come in. Like, they're normally picking up the young talents that have got 1 or 2 features.
Yeah.
They're not going for
someone who presumably would know what they want and how to get it, especially after the experience that he had on Spider-Man 3, where apparently he really got jerked around on it and kind of hated the experience. So they must have schmoozed him pretty hard for this.
very interesting
I'm
move
so
overall.
interested in this choice. Like, if I really think about it, if I think about where his sensibilities lie in filmmaking and what the tone of the Marvel universe, as well as specifically Doctor Strange's, he certainly wouldn't be the person that I first thought of.
Yeah, I think he's a very good fit for the material, but a very strange fit for the specific series, given the first film, which is so far from a Raimi film. Like, not an ounce of silliness in that movie. Less so than almost any MCU film. That's a really straight-laced movie.
I think that little bit of silliness that Raimi will bring with the physical comedy that he does, that is so fitting.
And his horror vibes. Yeah, I think the Doctor Strange that we've kind of seen grow through Infinity War and Endgame, I think will fit much more into this version.
And my assessment of it was, I thought that they were going to go for a much safer director because Scott Derrickson left.
That's what
How could it be safer than Scott Derrickson?
But like, I was thinking like, okay, we've been talking about like, this is a cornerstone of Phase 4. This is a really important film. Are they going to bring in a more squeaky clean director? And yeah, maybe in some ways you can look at Sam Raimi in that way, but the Sam Raimi I think of as like the gritty, grimy horror director,
schlocky kind of,
fun, entertaining.
And that's why I didn't.
Well, still, like Spider-Man, he bring in those other elements, so he has a diverse range of things that he can do.
Yeah, I don't see him as someone that would necessarily play ball in a universe. Hit the, obviously the people that are directing these kinds of films within the MCU, they need to look up and get the okay from Feige on points. Like, after he was supposedly manhandled, on Spider-Man 3, it seems like a very odd choice to go with him for something that is very heavily produced, to the point where they took the last director off. So
creative differences.
But that's the thing, right? Like, how is how is Rami the choice to
toe the company line? Yeah, it's a really, I'd say it's a really encouraging choice, because I had this movie pegged as the linchpin for the entire next phase that they were going to really force into being a specific product, but they've chosen essentially an auteur to come on to direct it. So unless he's just in here for the paycheck, which, he did Oz the Great and the Powerful, so who freaking knows? But I think this is a very interesting choice, and I'm more excited now.
Feige is just nerding out here and fanboying and saying like, I love this dude.
Yeah.
And also,
on this,
just on a slight tangent, we're dealing with the multiverse now in the MCU. Do you reckon he could get his old pal Tobey Maguire to make a little appearance?
It's always a possibility. I mean, they already had Simmons in there.
I reckon it's the new frontier, man, crossing over of like IPs from other fucking eras and franchises.
This page that I follow, we got this covered or something, and I don't know why I haven't unliked this page, but it comes up with, I say every second day, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, little old mate. They're coming. A multiverse live action Spider-Man is in the pipeline.
I guarantee.
Get your ass ready.
I guarantee they were reporting when Danny Elfman came on to Age of Ultron to do a little extra scoring. Everyone was like, "Oh, are they introducing Spider-Man? Are they bringing Tobey in?" It's like, no, he's just a very prolific film scorer.
He just needs money.
Yeah. So look, I ultimately I almost would have preferred to see Rami on a bit more of a to the side project, not for the prevalence of the project, but just more because I feel like that would have had more flexibility. Like, if this was Doctor Strange 1, little to no consequence within the overall universe, really. Doesn't even fit in directly into any kind of timeline.
It's going to feel like 100%. Doctor Strange 1, I feel. After all the stuff.
I don't think it can, because it is so integral, I think, going forward.
Maybe I should rephrase to say I think it's going to feel like its own unique thing. I really do think. And to be honest, I would have liked to have seen a horror Sam Raimi feature just as much. He hasn't made a feature in 8 years. That sucks. I'm hungry for anything. So whatever he does, I'm there day one, 100%.
Just a final note on this. C. Robert Cargill came out the other day, one of the old Spill crew who we used to follow. He wrote the first Doctor Strange with Derrickson. And he said they never actually had a stab at delivering a draft for Doctor Strange 2. So they were removed before they even did that.
Wow.
Or left before
What's
they
he doing
even did
these
that.
days?
Not writing Doctor Strange 2.
Where did you find that information?
I don't know. I saw an article about it. He tweeted regarding the
All right.
whole
I
situation.
missed that, dude.
All right, next up, Birds of Prey scores the lowest box office opening for any DC film in over a decade. So it made $33 million in the US, $48 million internationally. Just for a comparison, Suicide Squad made $133 million in its opening weekend in the US. So that's $100 million less.
It's certainly fighting a more uphill battle than Suicide Squad was. I mean, Suicide Squad had an enormous marketing budget, because I remember before that movie came out, I was like, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
They hit all the right notes.
I haven't seen this anywhere. I haven't seen this on Facebook. I haven't seen this in YouTube pre-roll.
And it's a sequel to a movie everyone thought was really shit.
Yeah.
Which definitely doesn't help it as well.
It's not even a sequel. It's a spin-off sequel of one of the characters that people sort of enjoyed out of that, or some people really enjoyed out of that.
So the only saving grace here is that this movie was much more modestly budgeted than most of these DCU films.
85 milli.
Yeah, 85 kind of to 100 was a production budget. So it's going to do fine, but it's probably like it opened 20 million less than like Shazam even. Like this is the worst opening since Jonah Hex for them. This did 20 million less than Green Lantern as well. So it's a real bummer for them, because I really feel like DC's been on the uptick lately. I think it's just such bad timing releasing it now right in the middle of Oscar season when all these prestige films are getting all the attention. And like you said, the marketing wasn't necessarily quite there. I think
there's just a couple things working against it. But, I think, Margot Robbie has handed in a really good piece here, and it's a shame that less people are going. It is what it is, but...
It doesn't even feel like there was that much of like a targeted hate campaign against this film, like we saw with Captain Marvel. I know the incels are definitely out there yelling about it, but it's not that loud.
But you think product market fit. You can't. Female superhero. Can that work? Well, look at case in point, Captain Marvel. That's a first time feature. No, that's not a character that everyone knows, and it cracked $1 billion. So I don't think that's necessarily much of an excuse. I truly believe that the Suicide Squad thing that's really hurts
massive.
It. And I didn't see it anywhere.
The R rating has shut out a lot of the potential audience for it too.
So
I think they were going for a little bit of a kind of a Deadpool type vibe
in terms of everything.
Yeah. And whether you like or don't like Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds, that man knows how to market shit.
100%.
Ryan Reynolds has a movie coming out. Yeah.
His gin commercials are incredible.
He had some brilliant ads going out for, I think it was Mint Mobile or some shit like that in America. The man is a fucking master marketer.
Definitely.
And I just didn't really feel as though this movie... this movie should have spent an enormous amount of money to get that out there and to try and combat the bad press and the bad taste in the mouth that was left there by Suicide Squad.
Yeah, so really interesting position that this leaves the Suicide Squad in for next year, James Gunn's film, because of course they have a really good kind of point of marketing, which is from the creator of Guardians of the Galaxy. That's really helpful for them. But otherwise, it's a follow-up to this movie, which isn't doing well, and a direct sequel or reboot, or in the eyes of the public, at least it'll look like a sequel, I guess, to a movie that everyone hated once again. And they're also going for the R rating, I think. So I feel like they may be having a bit of a scramble behind the scenes right now for that one, which is a bummer because I'm really looking forward to that.
Let's hope not. They're
definitely having a scramble. That's 100% happening right now.
They can definitely make it work.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I hope they just stick to their guns on it.
And hopefully
they're
this
James
film,
Guns.
Birds of Prey. Hopefully it cracks
$1 billion somehow.
Hopefully it cracks 200 million or 250, and then that's a solid little innings.
Yeah.
Should we move on to the next topic?
Onwards and upwards. We mentioned this briefly a few weeks ago, but Knives Out is officially getting a sequel now. And just to hear from the man himself, Rian Johnson, he says, I don't even think of it in terms of like a sequel, the same way Agatha Christie wrote a bunch of Poirot novels. Whole new cast, whole new location, whole new mystery. It's just another Benoit Blanc mystery, which I think is really encouraging. I like that idea. That was a really fun character, but that movie was so focused thematically in a lot of ways. And he was sort of an ancillary character or secondary character as well.
I thought he was going to be more so the main protagonist.
Exactly,
He took
yeah.
a bit of a backseat.
Yeah, so I think the idea of really making this a different thing that he's in again is cool.
Yeah, I hope they take a similar approach. Maybe you can focus in on him a little bit more, but if he becomes the main protagonist, you know, I liked how he was playing with the genre conventions, and Rian Johnson, he will do it again in this one, and how will he play with it? It'll be interesting to see. Maybe Benoit Blanc will be, you know, the murderer at the end of the day.
Ooh.
I really feel as though he's going to have to come out of left field in order to deliver a sequel that, as you said, that subverts expectations, especially since the first one was about subverting expectations. It'd be like trying to do a Cabin in the Woods 2. You know, the whole...
That would be very difficult given where
impossible.
that movie ends.
Very tough. But I mean, even if you take out that, like, you know, that aspect of it, I just think that he made a statement by kind of altering the narrative of how those work or how that style works. Does it work a second time? Right?
Yeah, he'd essentially have to just think up an entirely original new idea that he could somehow involve that character in.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would have to be a very different film. How about this? Origin story.
Oh,
Benoit Blanc rises.
I'm going to stop you now.
I want Rami Malek as Daniel Craig younger, and I want them to clone. No, listen,
And they show him.
let's
They
just
show
leave.
him.
Let's just move on.
All your mysteries have all been connected the entire time.
Yeah, they show him meeting Anna de Armas as a kid, being like, years from now, we'll meet again. Fuck you, The Hobbit.
Came out of left field.
All right, and finally, man, they just keep it up with this stuff. Kraven the Hunter, or what's the other title, George?
Kraven the motherfucker.
Is looking to cast the lead role. So they're really moving ahead with this thing. This is, of course, the Spider-Man third tier villain, Kraven the
How is
Hunter.
this news? How? Well, I bring shit up every week. You're like, nah. They're looking to cast.
No, I just think because
I'm taking you to task on this
they're
one.
really officially moving forward with this. Like, they've released a
This is the
description
thing,
of
I
the
think-
character, and apparently they're looking.
It's Kraven the motherfucker.
Apparently, they want to tie it directly into Spider-Man. So it's not just going to be like your Venom or Morbius. Like, he's just a standalone Spider-Man villain without Spider-Man. Looks like they're actually going to make this Spider-Man adjacent, which I think could be really fun, watching a Spider-Man film from the villain's perspective.
Okay.
Potentially.
Oh,
So, wait, so Spider-Man will essentially be the
They've just
From that
released a description
perspective.
of the character, which has described him as a man in his late 30s or 40s who wants to become the best hunter in the world by killing Spider-Man.
right.
So they are directly tying him in as a villain of Spider-Man,
Okay.
which I think is kind of interesting. And I also thought it'd be fun if we could try and cast him on the show. Because I'm thinking Joe Manganiello is
ooh,
perfect for the fucking role.
All right.
But he's been cast as everyone,
I know.
and
No,
he's never
all right,
actually
I'll-
made it to
He's
the
I'll-
role.
Deathstroke and he's never actually...
I'll do you. Nicolas Cage.
Fuck yes. This could be a sequel to his little leopard movie.
Yeah. Actually, that's his origin story. And that's literally what I was thinking.
Oh my god.
What sort of age is Kraven the motherfucker?
He literally
Late-
just said it. Like,
Sorry, I
literally just
was trying to
said
remember John Malkovich's name as I was staring off into the
Late
distance.
It's such
30s, 40s.
Sorry, I'm
Late
sorry.
30s,
It's such an
40s,
odd detail to include in a bio, like, or not even just an odd detail, but it's an oddly specific
thing.
detail to include. And the question that you asked is also oddly specific.
Well, I'm just thinking like John Malkovich, 30 to 40. Yeah. You
This
can
is a-
de-age him. Let's
this is a
chuck 100 million at
completely-
de-aging.
This is a completely out of left field question, but just because you've said John Malkovich, have either of you previously watched or are watching The New Pope?
No, I'm so confused. Is the
There's the two popes.
is the young pope still going?
I don't know. See, have you ever? Did
It's
you
the
watch
same thing, right?
Yeah.
Is
Did you
this
watch
like
it?
a sequel show?
I don't know. As best I can guess, the other one's in a coma.
I love it. I fucking love it.
Have you watched any of it?
No, but it sounds awesome.
I am so on board.
I don't know anything about this.
It's the most on board I've been for a series that I've never invested any time into.
Yeah, like near as I could tell, there was the young pope for a season.
So, all right, from what I can gather, and again,
Jude Law
no
plays
idea.
the young pope.
Yeah,
in the
and he's
first
like
season of the young pope,
scandalous,
and he's like a sexy young,
pope.
Catholic Church is cool, maybe.
And then out of
What a
nowhere,
hottie.
in season 2, John Malkovich is now
the
the
pope.
Pope, but is all equally as debaucherous or equally as corrupt, maybe?
And the show's called The New Pope,
The new Pope.
not the young pope. So it's this whole Popeverse is like
I'm so on
getting
board.
out there.
You
I
know
know.
what?
We gotta watch
You know
this
what?
show
For the rest of the
Popeverse,
podcast's
that's so
existence, let's
invasive.
never watch this, but rave about this show.
on every top
Purely
10
based
list.
on like posters and odd clips.
Do you know which streaming service that we definitely have but aren't sure of? It's on.
It is on SBS,
Oh,
but that's free.
yes.
Annoyingly has trailers in it. And
Where's it from that it's on SBS and not something you pay for?
mate, the new season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine is on SBS.
That's interesting.
It's on Netflix?
Up to season 6, but SBS has the new episodes of season 7 as they come
Whoa,
out.
How weird.
I just
Right?
noticed the other day that Stan has all of Doctor Who instead
Someone-
of ABC. I guess I'm like,
I will
that's
be
really
honest.
cool.
Someone in SBS is doing a fucking fantastic job at getting properties.
But that's when it switched. Did NBC pick it up? So there must be something to do with the licensing deal with it.
Yeah, something. But it's odd. They only have seasons 2 and 6 and the new episodes of 7. That's it.
I'm surprised SBS is picking up that caliber of show.
So am I.
I'd
And
say
this
This is
is
like
more
some
like
weird
a-
embezzlement
This is
thing.
a
I
really
literally
weird thing
don't
that I
know
don't
anything
understand.
about what the TV channels are anymore.
here's my
do
here's
they
my
It's been a
exist?
solid decade.
genuine confusion, I guess, with the state of streaming and all that. SBS is a free service.
It's one of the main channels in Australia, one of the main free channels.
And they have an on-demand platform now that runs ads, really annoying ads. But you can get some pretty good properties on there. And they have things like Letterkenny or the new Pope or some other like big or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which are really big gets.
Letterkenny isn't.
Well, Letterkenny isn't, but that's the only reason that I initially signed up to SBS.
Wow.
So they're obviously their talent acquisition is in terms of shows is really spot on. But yeah, like I would definitely pay for SBS.
Wow.
With its current outline, not much, like $2. I don't know.
Now $7.99.
If they did an entry,
$24.99 premium
no,
pricing.
if they did an entry level pricing like Amazon Prime did when it came to Australia, I would 100% sign up to that shit. And then they could just like subtly jack up the price behind my back, like Amazon Prime did.
After you think you've cancelled it.
Yeah, suddenly I'm paying 3 times as much, but which is still not that much. But yeah,
Just wait.
SBS, well done on your thing. Your commercials about how you're so much better than Netflix and Stan and all the other streaming platforms. Stay in your fucking lane.
That always sounds like irony.
We're
like
better.
It is like they're like
commercial for how
are
a
you tired
platform
of
with no
paying for
commercials?
stuff? You don't have to pay with us, and then conveniently forget that we still have to watch ads on your shit. Fucking sort your shit out.
It's like all those goddamn Blu-rays that you get that have that big thing at the beginning, like, thank you for buying a Blu-ray. It's like, fuck off, I'm downloading the next one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't steal a child.
But it's not even thank you for like, because at least Blu-ray seems like they're trying. They're like, we know that you didn't need to do this. Thanks. SBS is actively saying, isn't this better than Netflix? And be like, no,
How good a way.
no,
Yeah, they always
no.
shat me.
You
It's like,
have,
I did the right thing, dude.
yeah, you
Like,
have,
don't punish
you
me.
have like some shows that are worth me signing up. Like kudos to that, but also stay in your fucking lane.
Whoa. What
Anyways.
time is it?
It's trailer time.
trailer time.
Don't do that anymore.
Till I
Now,
die.
this is a banger week for trailers, I'll tell you what. If you thought that just because the Super Bowl was last week and they put all the big trailers out and there were none
you know
left,
what?
You were wrong.
I'll
sir.
tell
You know
you
what?
what.
Oh,
I am
madam.
really happy with the trailers. They're not very many. There's only 2 of them, but
Yeah.
I'm really happy with both of these trailers. So first we've got Spiral from the Book of Saw. And can I just say, following up from our conversation last week about naming conventions and F9 and the Fast Saga, I want to know from anyone that is watching, what is your favorite naming convention for a sequel or for a series or anything like that.
Well, you've never heard of the Book of Saw before?
Yeah.
The famous several movie franchise, the Book of Saw?
You know, Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Okay, what else can we get? Blank the Book of Saw from the Book of Saw. You know, Teapot from the Book of, you know, where are we going here? Razor Wire from the Book of Saw. Like, where does this, what are the possibilities that
feels
this
like-
naming convention
it feels like-
brings to this franchise?
Well, I think
literally
we've
feels
solved
like
a problem. I think we've solved a problem we had last week, which is Fast and Furious 10 from the Book of Saw,
Yeah, exactly.
which could be an
F10.
interesting
No, no.
crossover.
But for me, it
F10.
feels a lot like
Sorry.
a Star Wars story. Like it's just whatever. It's
Definitely does.
It's just like we can't make any more variations on the word Saw and Jigsaw. Let's just call it
just-
Spiral.
Yeah.
But how do they know it's Saw?
Yeah.
From the Book of Saw.
Cloud.
But they're movies from the Book of Saw.
Yeah. But
Anyway.
the trailer itself looks like it looks nice.
Chris Rock decided to make a Saw fan film for some reason.
He's a massive fan.
We broke this news like a year ago or whatever. Chris Rock, decided to come on as an executive producer on a new Saw
We
movie.
broke this news.
We broke it, yeah. We were the first ones to hear about
Got
this.
the hot tip.
I talk
Chris's
to Chris
agents.
every week,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting to me.
They seem to be going more down the police procedural route.
It's definitely
Looks
coming
like
from
Saw
a different
1.
angle. Yeah.
It looks a lot more like Saw 1, exactly, which I like. I think they're going less down the grotesque.
Do you think this has any surprises up its sleeves, like tonally or in terms of genre? Because Chris Rock he's a funny man. I don't think he's done much dramatic work.
Let's see, man.
I kind of hope it doesn't. I
Yeah.
hope that he does a straight drama. I mean, as dramatic as this kind of role could be, but like, I really like watching comedians do serious work.
They generally adapt to it very well.
Yeah.
But I
I don't know how much of an actor Chris Rock is.
all depends on whether or not they stick to the convention of having the big twist at the end, which they probably will. I think that's one of the reason why people love Saw is the whole what the fuck.
Well, there's
You know that
two types of Saw
moment?
fans that, at least from what I can tell, there's those that really enjoy Saw 1, who love the kind of intrigue, the
Industrial, grimy.
yeah, and
Horror.
the kind of the other camp, which is like we want to see people get fucked up.
And the third kind, who's just read the synopses of every film on Wikipedia.
And looked at the
They don't really like the gore so much.
like, yeah, which I think kind of fits into the first
Whoever
camp a
would do
little
that.
bit.
So this trailer on its own, I think, looks very good. Like visually,
Yeah.
it looks like the best Saw film in ages.
Looks very much like a
Or actually, the last one looked really good. Too.
like 7.
yeah.
I'm getting Series 7 vibes out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Does anything in this trailer look like there's anything differentiating it from the first Saw? Like it really just looks like that Saw.
I don't think it's
even to the point where he's in
alluding
the
to much.
bathroom with the Saw.
This isn't alluding to much. Let's see.
Sam
it
Jackson
looks
though.
competent. Yeah.
I think I need to rewatch
Spiral,
1. I haven't watched that in years.
I don't think you need to rewatch it.
Yeah, you need to go through all 7. Just get
No,
scrubbed
I
up on
don't.
the mythos.
You need to
No,
watch
I do
Saw
not.
3D, the final chapter, if that's what that
how
was
good.
called.
Did you really?
No.
Saw 3D, the final chapter from the Book of Saw.
I've seen Saw 1. I'm probably going to leave it at that, to be honest.
Okay, let's
a good move.
leave that where
You really want us to drag us to Jigsaw. We never did that.
Yeah,
You know what?
were
I watched the
insistent.
first scene of Jigsaw and it was so bad. I was like,
Damn.
not of it. And I
Was that
am
the Spearig
You
Brothers?
were defending that thing to the
Saw
death.
fan.
Was
Yeah.
it the Spearig Brothers or who was
Yeah,
that?
Spirit
That's
Brothers.
so
Really
disappointing.
disappointing.
Yeah.
Looked cheap, looked terrible.
Damn.
Like, it was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? I thought they really dropped the ball on that one.
Oh, well.
All right. Number 2, we've got the Jesus rolls.
Why do you make it sound like a pastry?
The Jesus rolls.
There we go.
On a totally separate side note, I've started watching like PGA bowling.
Oh no,
or
we're not.
PBA 10-pin
We're
bowling
not
on
doing
YouTube.
this. I'm
It's
not going to
mental.
watch you.
It's mental.
I'm going to talk to you about that every week and watch
It's
Connor's
mental.
eyes roll back like I do when you talk about fighting.
Guys are insane.
What? Are you a big bowling fan?
I'm a
He
good
is.
bowler.
He is.
No. There's a difference.
I don't watch it, but I could talk about it. More so than I could talk about MMA.
It's interesting to look at the techniques and the strategy, man.
Absolutely.
Hit
What's
the balls
happening
down or don't.
Yep. Get it in the same groove that you've created on the wax on the
All right, now I'm in. How did you even like stumble upon that?
Here we go.
I actually have no idea. The
Where am
YouTube
I?
algorithm served me
What?
something.
What?
It knows what you want before you do.
Early hour of the morning, 2 a.m.
5:47.
Yeah, were you surfing
Sunday
YouTube?
morning. My work alarm's going off in 2 hours.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
How like desperate for content
How,
were
where,
you?
when, and why?
Genuinely, I need
This is
to
honestly
know, like,
how I
the-
feel about everyone watching every sport.
Yeah, I need to know like what were the like kind of the six. I figure that's got to be like 6 degrees of separation from something that you would actually genuinely go out of your way to watch.
Crazy, dude.
Honestly, how did you get there?
It's crazy.
Anyway,
It's a crazy story.
we cannot overlook the fact that they're 20 or so years later making a spin-off from The Big Lebowski.
This isn't important anymore. Ben.
Written
I
and
need to know,
directed
boy.
by John Turturro, reprising his character of the Jesus, the pedophile bowler from that film.
I am 100% in.
The trailer was awesome.
I know. I am 100% full bore into this film.
I'm into this trailer. I don't know if there's any room for this movie to be any good necessarily, but the trailer on its own as like an SNL skit, I fucking love.
I was pretty lukewarm on this, man.
It will almost certainly be a bad film because it
Maybe.
has everything going against it. You know, it's riding the coattails of a classic film. It's following a side character that, you know, people love because it didn't have to drive the plot. Like
He was just weird.
He was just weird. Like this movie has nothing going for it in
Good
terms
director.
of like.
John Turturro's made some good movies.
I mean, yeah, but like, I mean, in terms of like, in the grand scheme of things, there's nothing about this movie that really screams to me. It's going to be good, except for the trailer.
There's nothing about this movie that answers the question of why are they making this movie?
Yeah, exactly. What angle are you taking with this that is going to make this
Gen
worthwhile watching?
X's.
John Turturro looks amazing though. He looks exactly
yeah.
like he did in The Big
He looks
Lebowski.
exactly like he did.
Yeah, they
in
actually
Big
say in the trailer,
Lebowski.
it's like, you look good. He's like, I look fucking great, man. I'm like, you really do look good, man.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
man does not age.
Seems like I'm just not sure if this is falling into place.
Do you guys like The Big Lebowski?
I love, but I it's been 5 years or something since I last saw it. But
It's been
you
at
know,
least that. Yeah,
is I don't know. We always talk about this when the spin-off character is it always going to be as good as the original, and I'm just not seeing if this is going to land.
I'd love to know how much of a blessing he got from the Coen brothers or any involvement they may have in the
Yeah.
story or character.
Fuck that.
I
Oh. All right. Sorry, sir.
Well,
Well,
we've got a little festival coming through.
we do. We mentioned top of the show that the Fantastic Film Fest Australia is coming here shortly. Now, this is running in Sydney and Melbourne at the RITZ Cinema in Randwick and the LIDO Cinema in Hawthorn, Feb 20 to March 4th. Basically, it's a showcase of a bunch of extremely out there, bizarre films that you're not going to see at your regular theaters for standard runs. This is a collection, like if you like any of those sort of A24 movies, Shudder originals, the kind of thing that some people might come out of and say, what the fuck was that? You know, if you're interested in these movies that push boundaries, kind of get a bit psychedelic, fuck with your head a bit.
movies that you roll the dice on.
Potentially, yeah. Then this could be the festival for you. I saw the lineup of films that they have for this, and I was utterly shocked because I think this is the first year they're doing this, or early one of them.
Yeah. This is year one in Australia.
At least in Australia.
Year one, yeah. And it's the lineup of films is legitimately fantastic. Like a bunch of movies I've had my eye on for ages that I never thought I'd be able to see in a cinema.
I think what's cool about this festival is kind of hitting a gap in the market where just above that underground film festival, like really grimy first feature stuff, Fantastic Film Festival is just hitting just that step above where these films have a little bit more budget or maybe some more established filmmakers, and everything just seems to be a little bit more sophisticated or self-assured.
That's the thing. It
in
was
the
a really,
presentation.
a really surprising intersection of like, you know, really offbeat, strange films, but also a bit of prestige. Like A24 is represented several times in this festival, and they are the GOAT. Like, I will watch anything they pump out.
Exactly.
So it's surprising that, I don't know, just to see them struggle
not
with
jinx it. I
distribution.
kinda feel like
Yeah,
if
maybe
we
these
keep
films are all
saying-
terrible. But anyway, I'm definitely looking forward to a couple of films.
Yeah.
You guys?
Yeah, I've picked out a few that I'm definitely wanting to sit down and watch.
Maybe
various
two
reasons.
films.
I specifically have 2 films that I would like
Maybe
to
2 distinct films from each of our 2 distinct films?
Surprisingly, I want to watch 2 films that neither of you want to watch.
I definitely don't want to watch the ones that you are bringing up.
We've all picked out 2 films, if that is not.
That we want to talk about. I'd like to kick it
obvious.
off by...
but just quickly, Fantastic Film Fest. Thanks for sending the money. By the way,
yes, we all got it
that
in our
big
accounts.
bag of money
We all
somehow got lost in the mail.
No.
we all got the $3.50 that we were promised.
no, 3.5.
Wait, we were promised $3.50. You 2-timing son of a bitch.
Anyway, one of the movies I'm most keen to see in this festival is Saint Maud, which is one I already had my eye on before I saw this actual program come out.
I had my eye on that one as well.
I had my eye on it better. So this is the aforementioned A24 coming in with another one of their kind of slow burn horror movies. This looks like a weird kind of religious fanatic, possibly satanic film that really the trailer makes my skin crawl. There's one shot of the girl putting her foot into her shoe that's like full of pins pointing up, and you just see the whole thing happen, and it's so like it's not gory at all, but my god, it's visceral.
Wait for
I
this.
can't wait to see how this movie unfolds.
Can't wait for this.
A24 and horror is just a recipe for success.
This is
Makes
just
me uncomfortable.
beautifully put together on every level. Looks disturbing. Looks interesting. Bring it. There was a reason why I picked this one before you. So,
And the other one that really jumped out at me was Horror Noir, which is a documentary actually about black people in the horror genre. Now, this is one I heard about like a couple of years ago. I believe it was made sort of as a response to Get Out, Jordan Peele's film, and all the runaway success that had. And it's a Shudder original. Now, Shudder is a streaming service that I am just begging for to come to Australia.
We've been waiting for that for at least a year.
I know,
if
I
not
know. They
more.
said 2019.
months, yeah.
They said 2019.
God damn it.
And fair enough. I know it's hard to get set up, and I know it's a pretty niche thing. But
Give us a
I just want to
call.
keep putting it out into the ether.
You're so like pleasant. Like I don't want to rush you. Or, like,
No, just
I
your own
don't want to
time.
anger you or anything. But I get it. It's tough. But when you get a chance, like like you're talking to an ex-lover or something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, this documentary actually looks really interesting because there is one of the most famous tropes in cinema is the black guy dies first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would happen in fucking Underwater that we saw.
which was really surprising.
No,
yeah.
no
Are you
spoilers.
kidding me?
By the
Because
way.
it's
We-
not
we've
a
already
spoiler because the
spoiled
black
it
guy always dies
twice.
first.
Yeah.
It is surprising that these tropes just live on so intensively, and I really want to see what this movie kind of has to say about that, and not just that,
Do you
of
reckon
course.
someone pinged that in a movie that was made in 2019 or 2018?
Right.
Do you reckon that when it was being written or when it was being cast or any of that kind of stuff, someone was like, "Guys, we've done that," or like I
Feels
guess
like
Somebody
someone-
was like, oh, the expectation is that they don't die first, so the fact that they do die first.
we're subverting the subverted expectations.
maybe there's just
Potentially.
enough really dumb people in Hollywood that they actually think that's a rule. There's
Oh, yeah,
some
yeah.
producer who's like, I got the new cast member for you, and no one
Yeah.
calls him out. He's like, there you go.
Or someone just like, you'd be really good for this role, and they just kind of like weighed up the fact like trope, good for the role.
I can only give you the first 3 pages of the script, though.
I apologize.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm really keen to see those movies. How about you guys?
Go for it, Connor.
Cool. Yeah. So I had picked out a trailer for Suicide Tourist.
Starring Nikolai Coster-Waldau.
Yeah, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that was also in this festival. Really interesting concept about a suicide fantasy hotel. The trailer does not give away an awful lot. But
This one looks twisty.
Sorry?
This one looks twisty.
It does look very twisty, and it looks like one of those. It looks like all the good parts of what was that weird hotel eel thing that we watched last year or the year before even.
Oh,
I was going to say Better Living Through Chemistry, but no, that's
Better.
the
Yeah, Better Living or
Medicine for the Head and the
yeah.
Heart.
Anyways, that movie.
Gore Verbinski directed
Gore
it.
Verbinski
Look it
as
up.
That's not the name of the film.
Better Life. High Life.
What's happening?
Better Call Saul.
Jason Bateman.
Better Off Ted.
Yeah. Anyways, it looks like all the aspects of that film that I really enjoyed, kind of mixed with a bit of Shutter Island, like some themes out of that.
Yep.
Mixed with Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who's one of the fucking best actors out. I will watch him in anything.
Yeah,
he is so good. And to see him kind of working with his native language is really cool.
Yeah. So I'm actually quite interested to check that out, and was really pleasantly surprised when this was shown to come out in the festival. The other one, and I'm particularly interested to check this out, is The Mute. Wait, sorry, is it called The Mute? Yeah.
Which you stole off me as well.
Yeah, sure. All right, this is starting to be a bit of
I'm so generous, guys. To everyone
paranoid
listening
George.
at home,
with you.
I'm the most generous one on the podcast. Just handing out movies.
And the most humble.
Yeah.
I really love naturalistic horrors.
Like The Witch.
You know what? I fucking knew you were going to bring that up.
Hypocrite.
I absolutely knew.
I'm this and I'm that.
I knew you were
Come
going to bring
on,
it up.
let's
And-
be
and I was-
fucking real,
I was
dude.
going to
Bringing up old shit.
to talk about that before you had the chance to bring it up.
It's an old tweet from 2011, man.
Can I once again remind you that the reason I don't like The Witch is because it was so poorly marketed?
Oh, boo hiss.
You went
Get over
safe.
the trailer, mate. Is the film good or not?
Yeah, look. So this looks like a
What's this one about?
So this is about two missionaries in medieval times that go to a secluded tribe to try and proselytize. It involves I guess a theme and some kind of usage of nature and naturalistic horror that really reminds me of like a mix of Valhalla and Apocalypto. What was the Mel Gibson one? Yeah, it looks like a kind of a mix between those two a little bit.
Also looks a little bit Darren Aronofsky-ish.
I definitely get what you're saying.
You know what
Like
I
The
mean?
Fountain.
The Fountain and also
Mother?
Mother.
Yeah, it looks like it's very much going to be that kind of almost esoteric, I suppose, type of film. But and I kind of hope it's not, though.
And allegorical.
Yeah, I kind of hope it's not. I kind of hope that it is somewhat plot driven. But yeah, look, I just love I love the setting. I love the time.
The setting.
Yeah, the time setting. The setting. I really love the setting.
Yeah, the land.
the period-
The location.
The period.
The period it's set
setting,
in.
the time, the location, the setting, the time.
When
Okay,
the movie takes place.
I'm just thinking about like it's really
just like I'm on a hill.
it looks as though it's very
in the sun.
striking in terms of visuals. Just in terms of where it's set. The uses of masks that look really creepy. I think this is going to be a film that, as the title might suggest, is not going to be heavy on the dialogue, and is going to be more kind of about
The mood.
well, the mood, yeah, and there's just like physical storytelling as well, and that also speaks to why I think it looks a lot like Valhalla. That features a mute character that. I remember the first time I watched that, I was really kind of enraptured by that movie. So yeah, I'm excited for this. I know I explained that really well for everyone listening. Why?
And thorough.
And very thorough.
Well, I got the dregs of the list, so no, I'm kidding. I've got some really good picks here. It Comes, a Japanese film that, honestly, I'm reading the plot here, and the trailer makes like very little sense. It just looks absolutely stunning. It's got that Gainax 90s Evangelion. It's just got a really cool look to it. Super unique, super out there, and just looks like it'll be on the big screen. This is one of those to go see on the big screen. So I'm really excited for that one. And the other one that looked really cool is Mutant Blast, which is like a really schlocky.
That looks extreme.
This kind of looks like more this one out of all the ones we talked about, I feel like sits more in that underground film festival. Sort of.
Are you worried
sort
that
of-
this is kind of? Sometimes I get that
Grindhouse. That's the
Yeah.
word I'm looking
that
for.
that kind of niggling at the back of my brain. That's like it's wacky for the sake of being wacky.
With Mutant Blast?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could
And
turn out to be really.
I I always
really
hope
meh.
that there's like something that holds that wackiness together. Like
It's a tough line to ride.
yeah, Mother was definitely a wacky film, just because we mentioned it before. But there was definitely a narrative behind that wackiness, and you could really
Mother
kind of,
wackiness.
Yeah, I was thinking more like Hobo with a Shotgun
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a kind of point of comparison, which I really loved.
yeah, that's probably more apt.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like it's probably
It's like,
Mother. It
just
kind
in
of
terms of
leapt to
out there
mind.
concepts and
Yeah,
whatnot. Yeah.
Hobo
I
with
know what
Shotgun
you
is
mean.
probably a more.
Well, I think of wacky, I think, "Oh, hi."
yeah.
Toxic Avenger.
And I definitely think Mutant Blast. And I think what you're saying is true. Like, it could just be a little too much. And I think Machete, it kind of starts to get a little bit old after a while. So this could definitely fall in that park. But I'm always down to just give these ones a shot. They can always just be, you can have a few good laughs. And
Yeah.
A few beers. You don't see many of them.
No, definitely not. Let's, Anyway,
That's just a few movies that we're looking forward to for the fantastic Film Festival Australia. Like I said, Feb 20 to March 2, Sydney and Melbourne, the RITZ Cinema Randwick and the LIDO Cinema Hawthorn. I will be there. Will you guys be there?
I'll be there.
Cool.
I will. Yes, I will definitely be there for at least 2 or 3 films.
Yeah, I would love to see more people come out and support festivals like this because, like I said, this is some weird shit that you're
And this
otherwise
is-
not going to be able to see on the big screen.
This is what I think the future of the cinema looks like in terms of being able to present things that are a little bit off the beaten path, things that are worth seeing, not on Netflix or worth seeing on the
with
big
an
screen.
audience specifically.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
This is the kind of atmosphere that you want to watch a lot of these films in, because I think if you're alone in your living room watching some of these wackier films, it can sometimes get lost on you. Like you've got so much distraction around, you can kind of get bored of like weird and wacky. But if you're in that environment, if you're in a festival environment and watching these films and surrounded by people that are all over the spectrum in terms of why they've come and what they're interested in, it's a genuinely good experience. So
Yeah, it's just great to be in there with film fans, I think. That's what's so much fun about Sydney Film Fest every year.
yeah.
All right, let's cap it off with question of the week. Our boy Drew Torres put this
Hey, Drew.
one in. Thanks, Drew. And guys, if you have a question, hit us up on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We'd love hearing from you. Here's the question for this week. Oh, and it's a good one. If you got to submit a question, you got to get better than this. All right. Here we go. Everybody is always up in arms when they hear about studio interference, but do you know when it's been a good thing? IMO, in my opinion, Thor Ragnarok benefited from the somber Odin stuff as opposed to the goofy homeless Odin that was cut. So, we did see in an earlier trailer of Thor Ragnarok that Odin, his death happened in the city, and then they obviously changed it to a different setting. And, is that studio interference? Yeah, well, most likely. But, I think it's an interesting question to, sometimes, is the studio actually benefiting it? When is it too much? When is it too little? Where do you guys sort of go on this kind of question?
For me, that's really tough. 2 reasons that it's really tough to answer that question. One, it's so hard to know precisely what the studio influence is. There's a lot of movies that have come out that have been terrible where you have to think, all right, did the studio save what was a garbage fire? And this is like the best version of what could have been? Or are they the reason that this is so bad, and that if they had gone with the director's vision, that it would have been that much better? And there are a few films that when they release director's cut, you're like, okay, obviously the director had a different vision, or potentially a better vision in mind.
It's like if a director releases a good movie because of the studio, they're hardly going to go out and say, man, I made a piece of crap, but the studio fucking
really
saved
helped me out,
it.
right? Yeah. So I find it really difficult to
Thank you, Disney.
ping that down, because there's just it's really hard to gauge where that line lies.
It's like when studio interference works, we don't call it studio
we
interference.
just call it good directing.
Yeah.
This kind of speaks to what you mentioned in the question, but I find that the MCU as a whole has benefited from a very strong producing hand. And I say that not necessarily in the individual decisions of each movie, but the guiding kind of overall, you hit these points, you do these things in order to create something. And I think that is probably the best example of a studio making big decisions and kind of manhandling potentially some decisions, cumulating? That's not
what Feige does on his pile of money.
Culminating in things like the Avengers, which I don't think would have been possible without that studio interference, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it is one of those things, we can never know. Like, I think the MCU is a great example of that. I think there is a slight element of homogeneity to that group of films. Like, I would love to see the parallel dimension where we had those 20 plus movies, like those titles, just each directed by like directors who had a strong vision and didn't have a studio forcing them to do things. And I'm sure a lot of them would be a lot worse. The director's universe. But no, I think that's just the dark mirror to the MCU rather. But yeah, I think the best example, as you mentioned earlier, is when we see a director's cut that isn't as good as the original.
Yeah.
And it's, again, hard to know if that was the studio, if the director just changed their mind about some things. But I think a really good example is Donnie Darko, which the original version, came out and was so weird and hard to understand, and everyone kind of loved it. And Richard Kelly, the director, later released a director's cut, which is actually the first way I saw the film, because that's how I bought it on DVD for whatever reason. And it's so much more literal and really explains everything that's going on in that movie, and which I appreciated when I was young, because I was just inquisitive and I wanted to know what it all meant. But
just give me the answer, right? Just give me the...
But having seen the original since and grown up a bit, I think, in just how I watch movies, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a really sick film, and whatever caused it to be released in that form initially, it was better for it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that the original is such a better film. And I think, a good example here is examining the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
I think that is just so fascinating to me from, this studio interference, because
they've interfered a lot.
From what we've heard is, Rian Johnson basically, go do your film. There was no interference there. He got every resource and everything that he needed to. And then subsequently what happened with Rise of Skywalker, probably a lot of notes, a lot of studio interference. There's reports, whether they're true or not, Bob Iger was sending notes, to 3 months before, doing reshoots on Bob Iger's notes, whether that's true or not. But you can kind of feel it in the end product, and it's but for better or worse, is the film more successful when the studio's involved or not? And especially with this sequel trilogy, Palpatine comes out of nowhere, Snoke dies. Was there a plan? Should there have been more interference? Should there have been more?
Sorry, are you
should
saying
across the whole trilogy there have been more of a guiding hand?
So you would
because it's not a coherent
and
trilogy.
Consistency in the approach, because there was such there was clearly a very distinct approach across each film.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. So you would have liked overall over the trilogy for there to be more of a guiding hand.
Rather than them just doing 3 movies worth of it in the film.
Yeah, so we're kind of talking about like a missed opportunity in this sense.
I think so.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I pinged this right when we started talking about The Force Awakens. When we first heard that the second movie wasn't going to be directed by
JJ,
it sent a strong message, at least to myself, that there's no coherent I guess story or kind of idea of what this trilogy is meant to be. And clearly the production company, or Disney, didn't...
Wait, don't name and shame, brother.
Yeah. didn't play a really strong role in saying these are the beats that we need to hit. These are the characters that, I don't know, we need to keep alive or whatever it may be. Or if they did, then holy crap. Maybe that is a whole terrifying thought unto itself. But
it's probably the most interesting thing about studio interference overall is that we know so little.
Yeah.
When this stuff comes out, it's usually decades later.
And even then, it's a lot of it's hearsay. And no one's going to actively take the blame. It's so rare that a director will come out and be like, yeah, we fucked up. I don't think there has ever been, at least as far as I'm aware, a producer that has stepped up and been like, yeah, we fucked up. Like, Kathleen Kennedy didn't step up and be like, can't believe we manhandled that Solo movie.
I'll just quickly name check a movie that I think is well worth watching, The Death of Superman Lives.
Oh, dude.
It's a documentary about the Nicolas Cage Superman film that they were going to make in the 90s.
John Schnepp, baby.
With Tim Burton that really fell apart in some very interesting ways, but there was so much behind-the-scenes production stuff going on there. It's a fascinating story. I've also really been meaning to check out the Richard Stanley documentary, or about Richard Stanley, about the island of Dr. Moreau. The Val Kilmer film.
This is something that I've talked about recently, which is a weird kind of connection to this, but the series that I just finished watching called Episodes with Matt LeBlanc and I always forget her name, the one from Black Books.
Don't think we've ever said it on the show.
Fran from
You
Black
definitely
Books.
have.
No, not her actual name.
No,
Oh, really?
We've just said the character.
I can't believe how many times on the show this year we've talked about Joey from Friends.
Yeah,
It's mind-blowing.
Makes me sad. Makes me
My
so
resolution was no more talking about Joey from Friends.
No, the reason I bring it up is because that a major theme of that movie is literally about studio interference and how a writer can present or a showrunner can present something pure and funny and great and artistic and creative and all that kind of stuff, and how the system will inevitably manhandle that into something unrecognizable.
Lowest common denominator garbage.
Exactly. And I for those that I don't want to present this as like a deep expose into the Hollywood,
Starring Joey from Friends.
yeah, exactly, because it is just a light comedy, but it does definitely speak to that, that industry and that,
And it's from people in the industry.
Yeah,
and I guess
exactly.
sometimes the most honest they can be about that stuff is through their own fiction,
yeah.
in a way.
Well, thanks for that question, Drew. Listen, guys, send us a question. We love hearing from you.
You got us monologuing.
Shoot it in. Come
You sly
on.
dog.
Compilation. Come on. Let's do this. Okay. Go check out our Birds of Prey review. Stay well, stay healthy, eat a carrot. See you next week, Connor.
See ya.
See you, Benny.
I don't want to eat a carrot.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.